The night settles slowly, like a velvet curtain drifting across the sky, and the ocean breathes beneath it, soft, steady, ancient. You can hear the waves rolling in and out, not in urgency, but with the calm certainty of something that has existed long before you were born and will continue long after. And in this moment, as you stand at the edge of the quiet shoreline, your body begins to loosen, untying knots you didn't know you carried. Take a slow breath and let the weight of the day dissolve into the sound of water touching land. The world behind you fades gently like a lantern, dimming at the end of a long path. Before you stretches the deep indigo of the night sea, silent, endless, drawing you in with a cool, soothing pull. The sand beneath your feet is cool and soft, and every grain seems to hum in rhythm with the tide. The salt-tinged wind brushes against your skin, brushing away the last traces of tension. Your shoulders lower, your jaw loosens. Your heartbeat steadies into a softer rhythm. Far above, a sky of scattered stars watches quietly. They glitter faintly through wisps of drifting clouds that move like long, pale ghosts of forgotten winds. Everything feels slower here, as though time itself has chosen to rest beside you. Even the moon seems half lulled into dream, floating low, gentle, shimmering across the water in a ribbon of silver that sways with each passing wave. Tonight we drift together into stories that once slept in the heart of the sea. Imagine the ocean's breath, cool, deep, patient, rising and falling in front of you. When you inhale, feel its vastness expanding in your own chest. When you exhale, feel your body settle deeper into the softness of the moment. Let the sound guide you. Let it soften every thought and calm every thread of your mind. Somewhere in the gentle symphony of waves, you sense the presence of something timeless. Perhaps it's memory, perhaps it's mystery, perhaps it's simply the peace that comes when the world grows quiet enough for you to hear your own soul again. But whatever it is, it calls you forward, not loudly, but with the soft invitation of a familiar lullaby. The shoreline seems to glow faintly as you take your first step toward a small wooden pier, stretching out into the night. The wood is smooth beneath your feet, worn by years of tides and time. As you walk, you notice how each plank creaks with a hushed whisper, almost as though greeting you. There is no urgency here, no expectations, just a journey beginning with a slow, welcoming breath. At the end of the pier waits a small boat, simple, steady, swaying ever so slightly with the rhythmic push of the waves. A lantern hangs from its bow, glowing warm and golden, its light dancing across the water in swirling patterns. It looks like a place meant for rest, for drifting, for letting the world melt into the gentle darkness. You step inside. The boat accepts your weight with a soft sway, and immediately the world feels quieter, softer, warmer. The wooden seat beneath you is smooth and cool, and the lantern's glow settles around you like a blanket of amber warmth. The hull rocks slowly in the same rhythm as a lullaby you half remember from childhood, comforting, steady, familiar. For a moment, just sit, listen, breathe with the waves. The ocean hums a low song beneath the boat, a deep, vibrating note that seems to come from everywhere at once. The water, the air, the stars, the night itself, each rise and fall of the boat feels like a long, calming exhale from the world around you. And your body responds instinctively, letting go a little more, relaxing in places you didn't realize were tense. Your thoughts begin to drift, slow and light, like feathers floating on a still breeze. Nothing pulls at you now. No worries, no deadlines, no noise. Only the soft embrace of the night ocean holding you in a cradle of calm. The boat nudges gently against the pier once more, as if asking whether you're ready. And the answer, deep within you, is easy, peaceful, certain. You let your fingers rest along the edge of the boat, feeling the cool touch of the sea-polished wood. You breathe in the scent of salt and quiet winds. Above you, a lone star brightens, as if offering its light to guide the path ahead. When you exhale, the rope tethering the boat loosens on its own, slipping softly off the post, letting the vessel drift free. The journey into the open ocean has begun. Journey into the night sea. The boat drifts slowly away from the pier, its wooden hull gliding across the moonlit water with an almost deliberate gentleness, as though it understands the pace your mind needs tonight. The world behind you fades into a soft blur swallowed by the deep blue hush of the ocean night. There is no rush, no sense of destination, only the peaceful certainty that you are exactly where you are meant to be, floating between the quiet sky and the calm, rhythmic breath of the sea. The surface of the water is smooth tonight, like endless silk stretched beneath the stars. Each ripple is a whisper. Each glimmer of light that dances across the waves is a soft touch on your senses, coaxing you deeper into relaxation. The lantern hanging beside you casts a warm amber glow that reflects onto the water in long, molten streaks. They shimmer gently, breaking and reforming with every movement of the boat, as if painting the ocean anew with each passing second. Above you, the sky seems broader than any sky you've seen before. A living tapestry of stars scattered like grains of silver dust across an infinite dark canvas. Some shine brightly, steady and confident. Others flicker with a shy, trembling light. And somewhere in the distance, a cluster of stars forms a shape you cannot quite name, yet you feel you've seen it before, perhaps in a dream, perhaps in a memory softened by time. A soft breeze brushes your cheeks, cool and delicate. It carries with it the scent of distant rain and open horizons, mixing with the faint aroma of salt water. With every inhalation, something inside you unwinds. Your ribcage expands with ease, your lungs filling with air that feels lighter than anything you've breathed all day. And when you exhale, it's as if your breath enters the night and becomes a part of its vast, peaceful quiet. The boat continues forward, guided by a gentle current. It doesn't push, it welcomes. The water lightly bumps against the hull, creating a soft, rhythmic knocking, like calming fingertips tapping on a wooden drum. A lullaby in the language of waves. In the distance, the moon rises higher, climbing slowly into the night sky. Its pale glow stretches further out across the ocean, illuminating a path that your boat seems naturally drawn to follow. It's a soft corridor of silver light, shimmering with each breath of the wind. A path not marked by maps, not drawn by man, but shaped by the whisper of the sea itself. You rest your hand along the side of the boat, and the wood is cool beneath your fingertips, smooth, old, familiar. The grain curves like the lines on an aged palm, telling stories without words. You let your fingers drift in slow circles, letting the texture speak to your senses. It steadies you, grounding you gently, even as the world around you expands into dreamlike vastness. The sea around you deepens into a darker shade of blue as the boat moves further from the shoreline. The coast disappears completely now, swallowed by the soft folds of night. But there is no fear in the darkness, only a profound peacefulness, a quiet so deep and gentle it seems to settle inside your chest like a soft blanket. The stars appear to grow brighter as the darkness thickens. Some reflect on the water, creating tiny twin stars that ripple and stir with the movements of the waves. You watch them blur into streaks of light whenever the water shifts. A mirrored galaxy drifting beneath your boat. As the gentle rhythm of the sea quiets your thoughts, your mind begins to soften around the edges. Ideas slow, drifting like loose petals on a still river. There are no sharp corners here, no sudden jolts, just slow, fluid thoughts, melting into one another like watercolor, bleeding into wet paper. And then, with a breath as light as the breeze itself, you feel the presence of stories. They are not loud. They do not rush toward you. Instead, they rest quietly beneath the surface of your awareness, humming like distant echoes preserved in the water. Ancient tales the sea has carried across generations. Stories of waves that have seen everything, from forgotten storms to drifting vessels, from quiet islands to horizons shrouded in mystic mist. You sense them circling you, as though the ocean is slowly inviting you to listen. You close your eyes. The darkness is gentle, warm, familiar. In this moment, it feels as though you are floating not on water, but on a vast, weightless void, supported by nothing and yet completely safe. Your breaths grow longer. Your heartbeat slows. It sinks effortlessly with the rocking of the boat. Each inhalation brings the scent of the night ocean deeper into your body. Each exhalation softens the muscles around your ribs, your shoulders, the base of your neck. Slowly, effortlessly, you drift into that delicate space between waking and dreaming. In the distance, a faint sound rises, a low, resonant hum deep beneath the water. It is not threatening, not unsettling. It is ancient, steady, like the pulse of the ocean floor, a vibration that moves through the hull, up your spine, into your bones. It soothes, it reassures. It reminds you that the sea is alive, vast but not empty. Your boat continues along its silver path, the lantern's glow casting warm reflections that sway and shimmer. You watch as the reflections dance across your hands, your legs, the wooden seat. Gentle, slow-moving waves of golden light. Every element of the night seems to exist solely to calm you. The breeze, the stars, the quiet echo of the water, the slow, steady forward drift. And between these elements, between breaths and heartbeats, the sea begins to share its secrets, not through words, but through feeling, a subtle shift in the air, a deeper note in the hum beneath the boat, a whisper in the back of your mind. The stories are getting closer. You can almost see them now, the shapes of memories and mysteries rising from the deep, swirling just out of reach like soft shadows beneath the surface. They drift along your path, silent companions on this nighttime voyage. Tales once carried by sailors, stories whispered from one generation to the next, legends softened by time until they became more dream than history. The sea holds many such stories, some peaceful, some sorrowful, some shrouded in mist, some forgotten except by the waves that once touched their hulls. And tonight, the ocean has chosen to share them with you. The boat tilts slightly as a gentle wave lifts it, carrying you deeper into the heart of the night. You feel the world expanding as you leave the familiar behind. Ahead lies only the endless shimmer of moonlit water and the quiet promise of tales waiting to surface. Your breathing slows again, deeper, softer, matching the ocean's rhythm. Your eyelids grow heavier, not closing completely, but drifting, relaxed, half lowered in a dreamy haze. You are suspended between worlds now, part of the night sky, part of the drifting sea, part of the ancient stories waiting to be told. The ocean murmurs to you, "Listen." A soft, almost imperceptible breeze stirs the air, carrying the faintest scent of something old, something forgotten. It wraps around you gently like a delicate ribbon of memory being drawn from the depths. Your skin tingles with curiosity, but your body remains soft, relaxed, at ease. Without knowing how, that one story is drifting closer than the rest. A story carried on a lonely tide, a story wrapped in mystery, like fog drifting across an empty deck. The waves hush, soften, as if preparing the stage. The stars overhead seem to lean closer, their glow brightening just enough to illuminate the dark water ahead. And the boat slows, not stopping, but easing into a gentler, smoother drift. A sign that you are approaching the first tale. The lantern beside you flickers, casting wavering golden lines across the surface of the ocean. They shimmer, twist, merge, as if shaping the faint outline of a ship, long lost to time. The Mary Celeste waits at the edge of the night. Its story is ready to rise from the depths. The Mary Celeste, Queen of Ghost Ships. The ocean grows quieter as your small boat drifts deeper into the night, as if holding its breath for the story that is about to awaken. The stars shift subtly overhead, forming a loose crown of light on the dark horizon. You sense the presence before you see it, the faint outline of a ship rising from the deep folds of history, carried forward on a tide of silence. The Mary Celeste. The name alone carries a shiver of curiosity, as soft and inevitable as a wave meeting the shore. Your lantern's glow stretches across the water, and the reflection wavers, lengthens, then gently bends, almost as though bowing in reverence to the tale about to unfold. The air grows cooler around you, not sharp or chilling, but filled with the unmistakable breath of old mysteries resurfacing, and slowly, gradually, the story of the Mary Celeste drifts toward you like a ghostly sail catching wind. A ship alone in the Atlantic. Imagine the vastness of the Atlantic in 1872. No satellites, no radios, only water stretching endlessly in every direction, and ships depending solely on stars, sails, and luck. It was in this endless expanse that the Dei Gratia, a Canadian brigantine, spotted a vessel drifting strangely on the horizon. The day was calm, the sea steady. The Mary Celeste moved not with purpose, nor with the confident posture of a ship under command, but with a slow, weary sway, like something wandering without direction. As the Dei Gratia approached, the sailors noticed something unsettling. No one stood at the helm. No one moved across the deck. No voice called out. Only the creaking of wood and the lap of waves filled the quiet space between the two vessels. The Mary Celeste was alive in form, its sails still partly unfurled, its hull intact, but utterly deserted. You picture this moment clearly now, the silent ship, rocking gently under a cloud-streaked sky, looking less like an abandoned vessel and more like a drifting memory. The captain of the Dei Gratia sent a small boarding party to investigate. Their rowboat cut through the calm water, the oars dipping in and out with soft splashes, the men's faces tense with a mixture of caution and curiosity. Even from a distance, the Mary Celeste seemed wrapped in a silence that felt deeper than simple emptiness. When the boarding crew stepped onto the deck, the wood creaked beneath them, but there was no answering sound. No footsteps, no voices, no stirring of life. Inside the cabin, something even more unsettling awaited them. The dining table was set, plates arranged, cutlery placed neatly, a meal left unfinished, as though the crew had been interrupted mid-bite by something so urgent they had no time to return. In the galley, provisions remained untouched. In the cargo hold, barrels of alcohol were stacked neatly, only a few found leaking due to faulty seals, not due to sabotage or theft. Nothing was ransacked, nothing was broken, nothing suggested panic. But the lifeboat, the ship's only means of escape, was gone. And so were all 10 crew members, along with the captain, his wife, and their young daughter. Your small boat continues drifting as you listen, floating in the hush of the night. The lantern's glow flickers, echoing the soft uncertainty that hangs over the Mary Celeste even now. The boarding crew walked carefully through the vessel, noting what they saw and what they didn't. The ship was seaworthy, the cargo intact, the personal belongings undisturbed. Clothes remained in closets, instruments on tables, pipes in drawers. Even the captain's logbook contained regular entries, up until 10 days before the ship was found. There were no signs of violence, no storm damage, and no fire, no struggle. It was as if the crew had simply decided to step off the ship into the ocean without reason, an impossibility. Yet there was the evidence, a perfectly preserved ship, and the complete absence of its people. Your breath deepens as you imagine standing on that deck yourself, witnessing the eerie stillness of a vessel untouched by human hands for days. The way the ropes swayed, the sails fluttered, the shadows shifted, everything moving, yet nothing alive inside. The ocean around you murmurs softly, its dark waters reflecting the faint, trembling starlight. It seems to whisper along with the theories that have surrounded the Mary Celeste for more than a century, each one like a breeze passing through the rigging of a forgotten mast. None proven, all imaginable, all drifting like fog over calm water. Some say a deep tremor shook the ship, frightening the crew into abandoning it in the lifeboat. But if so, why leave everything behind? And why not return when the Mary Celeste remained afloat? Others believe the leaking barrels of alcohol caused fumes that made the captain think the ship might explode. Yet experts argued the fumes were far too weak to cause real danger. A classic tale, but the ship held no signs of struggle, no blood, no broken locks, no hidden bodies. A popular theory at first, but quickly dismissed. Pirates would have stolen cargo, valuables, supplies. All remained untouched. Natural phenomenon? Some propose a waterspout lifted the lifeboat away. Others imagine a rogue wave sweeping the crew off the deck. Romantic theories, but lacking evidence. Perhaps the captain believed the ship was sinking and fled hastily. But the Mary Celeste was sturdy, unharmed, floating steadily when found. A fear unspoken, a sound only they heard, a sight only they saw. Something that made 12 people leave behind everything. Their navigation instruments, their food, their possessions, their unfinished meal, and escape into a small, vulnerable boat that was never found again. The theories glide past you like wisps of night fog, visible for a moment, then dissolving into the vast silence. Your boat rocks gently as if mimicking the slow, lonely drift of the Mary Celeste across the Atlantic. The night feels deeper now, the stars softer, the ocean quieter, held in the stillness created by unsolved history. You picture the ghost ship floating through 10 long days, untouched by human presence, sails loosening, ropes swaying, wood creaking under the sun and moon. The captain's quarters illuminated at dawn, then swallowed by the orange of dusk. Shadows stretching across empty corridors. A ship meant for life, but carrying only silence. You can almost hear it, the faint tapping of rigging in the wind, the hollow echo of water slapping against an unmanned hull, the empty steps that never come. Stories like these are not told loudly. They move like the tide, slow, persistent, pulling gently at the mind. Every detail of the Mary Celeste invites you deeper into mystery, yet never fully answers the questions you most want to ask. This is the quiet power of the unknown, soft, intriguing, lingering, like a candle flickering in a long hallway, illuminating just enough to draw you forward, yet never enough to reveal the whole path. As you breathe in the cool night air, the story begins to settle inside you, becoming part of the calm darkness around your drifting boat. The Mary Celeste remains, as it has always been, suspended between fact and myth, too intact to be explained away, too empty to be understood. And perhaps that is why the ocean chose it as the first tale. Not to frighten, not to disturb, but to invite you into the soft realm of mysteries that sleep beneath the waves. You let your breath move slowly again, in and out, in rhythm with the ocean. The Mary Celeste begins to fade now, not disappearing but retreating gently into the folds of the sea's long memory. Its story settles like mist on the water, a lingering presence, a quiet echo. You sense the ocean shifting around you, guiding your small boat toward a new direction. The air cools further, the stars take on a slightly sharper sheen, and a faint northern wind brushes across your cheeks. Delicate, crisp, carrying the promise of colder waters ahead. The Mary Celeste drifts behind you, sinking back into the story-laden depths of the Atlantic. Ahead, the sea leads you toward a colder horizon, a place where fog is thicker, where storms brew quietly under pale skies, where another tale waits to be awakened. The north is calling. The echo of Mary Celeste and the drift toward colder seas. The ocean holds the silence of the Mary Celeste long after her story fades into the dark. It lingers around your small boat like a delicate veil, weightless yet unmistakable, as though the ghost ship's loneliness has seeped into the very air. You feel it not as fear, but as a deep, resonant stillness, a quiet pause between heartbeats, an echo that drifts across the waves long after the vessel itself has disappeared into the folds of memory. The sea around you seems to sigh, a slow, heavy exhale, a breath older than any story. Your boat drifts through this exhale, the lantern beside you flickering with gentle unease, as if trying to decide whether to brighten or dim. The reflection dances atop the water in trembling shapes of gold that stretch and dissolve, stretch and dissolve, mimicking the way memories recur in fragments before finally fading. And the echo of the Mary Celeste, the loneliness of a ship, adrift, untouched and unclaimed, continues to murmur around you like a soft current weaving through your thoughts. You inhale deeply, letting that echo settle into the quiet spaces of your chest. It brings with it a sense of vastness, a reminder of how large the ocean is and how small a single ship can be, how mysterious the line is between presence and absence. The Mary Celeste drifted alone for days, her sails catching wind on an empty deck, her wheels spinning under no one's hand, and as you imagine her rocking in the long swell of the Atlantic, you can feel her solitude stretching out like an endless horizon. The gentle sadness of a vessel meant to hold life, left instead to cradle only silence. Your boat glides forward, its movement slow and patient. The water beneath you grows darker, thicker, like ink deepening in its well. The night sky expands overhead, the stars now sharper, colder, as though reflecting the temperature of the story drifting toward you next. The echo begins to thin, like a whisper moving with the tide, fading into the rumbling rhythms of the sea. The air cools gradually, so subtly that at first you mistake it for the natural settling of night. But soon the chill becomes deliberate, brushing along your skin with the crisp edge of distant northern winds. The breeze that once smelled of salt and warm horizons now carries a hint of something colder, something metallic, like ice forming beneath moonlight. The change is gentle, never jarring, as though the ocean is escorting you softly from one realm of stories to the next. Your boat rocks in a slower rhythm now. The waves grow heavier, more deliberate. Each rise and fall feels like a slow inhalation of a giant creature slumbering beneath the surface. The lantern's glow shrinks just a little, its once warm halo dimming into a softer amber, like an ember settling into quiet flame. Shadows gather around the edges of your vision, not ominous but deep, velvety, inviting you deeper into the folds of the night. The sea seems to widen around you. The air thickens. The sky seems both closer and further away. Everything feels meaningful. Yet MEMELANCHOLIC, a transition stitched by the slow thread of your drifting thoughts. As you travel farther from the ghostly memory of the Mary Celeste, a lingering sense of solitude follows you, soft, pale, delicate. It is not yours. It belongs to the ship you left behind, and yet it clings gently to the air, as though the ocean is reluctant to release it too quickly. You think of the silent corridors, the untouched cabins, the abandoned meals, the ship caught in time, preserved yet emptied. A fate both peaceful and tragic. There is something haunting, yet strangely comforting in such quiet. A reminder that mystery does not always scream. Sometimes it sighs. Your breath synchronizes with the slow waves, and for a long moment you simply drift, letting the solemn beauty of the Mary Celeste's echo dissolve into the vast ocean before you. Little by little, you feel the loneliness lighten, like a cloud thinning in an open sky, not disappearing, but transforming, becoming something quieter, something older, something tied not only to the Mary Celeste, but to countless stories scattered across the sea. Stories of vessels that faced storms, lost bearings, disappeared into fog, or drifted into legend. Stories waiting for you on the other side of this cold breeze. The stars rearrange themselves into subtle patterns overhead as the night deepens. Some seem to flicker with a soft, icy light, blue-tinged, shimmering like frost. The moon, rising to a sharper angle, casts longer streaks of silver across the water, illuminating the path before you with a pale glow. Your small boat glides into the silver-lit corridor, moving slowly but steadily toward waters that hum with a different kind of energy. The Atlantic's sad, heavy breath now gives way to a cooler, more precise rhythm. A shift in tone, a shift in intention. The sea ahead feels not sorrowful, but watchful. Not grieving, but waiting. The water's color darkens, turning from ink to obsidian. The waves flatten slightly, becoming smoother, stretching wide like sheets of cold glass. The air sharpens. The temperatures dip by the slightest degree, and you understand you are crossing an invisible boundary, moving from warm waters into the guarded cold of northern seas. Far off in the distance, a faint fog begins to gather, like thin threads spinning in the moonlight. The sensation of the ocean shifts again, this time subtly but unmistakably. The swell beneath your boat grows longer, more deliberate. You feel as though you are being carried, not just by water, but by direction. A pull, a current, a whisper. It is leading you toward the north, toward colder winds, toward thicker fog, toward a coastline carved by storms and legends. Your lantern glows faintly in the dark, its light bobbing softly with every motion of the sea. The sound of the waves grows deeper, more resonant, a lower hum that vibrates gently through the wood beneath you. The Mary Celeste's warm, sorrowful echo has now fully dissolved. In its place rises a new sensation, sharper, more enigmatic. The anticipation of a different mystery, one shaped by cliffs of cold fog and waves that crash like thunder against jagged coastlines. And with that anticipation, the ocean begins to whisper hints of what lies ahead. A ship caught in a storm, a coastline shrouded in mist, passengers lost to the sea, and a shadow, a dark silhouette seen in the fog, years after the vessel was claimed by the waves. The story of another ghost ship, born not of emptiness but of tragedy, not drifting in still water but clinging to life against a violent storm. The SS Valencia. Your boat drifts further into the night, and the fog in the distance thickens, drawing closer in soft, swirling ribbons. It moves like living substance, breathing and curling, rising and folding like great pale wings. The air becomes cooler still, brushing against your skin with the whisper of distant storms. You can almost taste the sharpness of the wind, cold, briny, filled with the memory of rough seas. The ocean swells beneath you with a little more weight now, as though preparing to share something heavier. Yet it remains calm, steady, protective. The night may be growing colder, but it still holds you gently, never pushing, never startling. Your breaths remain soft, slow, unhurried. The transition is happening as naturally as the tide. Somewhere far ahead, the Pacific waits. A vast, powerful expanse where fog drapes over cliffs and storms rise without warning. A place where the waves tell harsher stories, stories etched into rock and memory, and where the ghost of the Valencia still roams, slipping through mists like a shadow from another time. But you are not there yet. You remain on this quiet stretch of night sea, moving gradually along a current, paved by moonlight and guided by the old soft hand of the ocean. As your boat drifts further, the fog thickens just enough to blur the line between sea and sky. The moon becomes a pale halo, the stars dim behind the veil. The world grows softer, quieter, more dreamlike. You feel as though you are floating not only across water, but across memory and myth, carried by tides that know long-forgotten truths. The cold breeze brushes your skin again, firmer this time, but not uncomfortable. Instead, it brings clarity, a sense of purpose in the path ahead. You are being led. Gently, inevitably, toward a story carved into the cliffs of the North Pacific. The Mary Celeste has released its echo into the waves, and the sea now shifts its focus. It gathers its breath. It deepens its voice. It changes its color. A new chapter waits, somewhere in the curling mist. Beyond the quiet horizon, The shadow of the Valencia stirs. The SS Valencia. The phantom in the fog. The fog thickens ahead of you, rising from the cold northern waters like a vast, slow-moving curtain. It swirls in long, pale ribbons, drifting across the moonlit surface with the gentle grace of something half asleep. The air grows cooler around your boat, not sharply, but with a quiet, creeping chill that feels like an early whisper of winter. You draw a slow breath, letting the freshness settle deep into your lungs. The rhythm of the waves changes again, longer, heavier, as though the ocean is preparing to reveal one of its colder, harsher memories. The lantern beside you softens into a dim golden blur. Its warm circle of light shrinks as the fog wraps closer, muffling the night with layers of pearly gray. The world becomes smaller, quieter, dreamlike. You can no longer see the horizon. You drift through a soft cocoon of mist that sways and shifts like a great blanket drawn over the sea. In this muted silence, you sense something waiting, an old echo that has lingered for more than a century, a story carried by the cold winds of British Columbia, a tale shaped not by stillness, like the Mary Celeste, but by tragedy, thunder, and waves that rose like mountains. The story of a ship swallowed by the Pacific's merciless winter storms. The story of the SS Valencia. Your boat moves slowly, as if the water itself hesitates to disturb the thick fog gathering around you. The mist strokes your skin with icy fingers. Droplets cling to your eyelashes. The world narrows into a soft corridor where only the sound of your breathing and the faint lap of the water remain. And then, very faintly, you hear it. Not a voice, not a scream. A low, distant rumble, like the echo of a storm remembered by the sea. The story begins to rise. A storm on the edge of the world. It was January of 1906 when the SS Valencia, a passenger steamer bound from San Francisco to Seattle, sailed into one of the fiercest winter storms the Pacific Northwest had seen in years. The sea around Vancouver Island is no gentle place even in kind weather. It is a labyrinth of jagged reefs, hidden rocks, and steep cliffs that rise like sleeping giants from the water. On that night, the storm arrived with vicious winds and waves that towered higher than the ship's smokestack. Sheets of rain whipped across the deck. Thunder cracked against the mountainsides. The ocean heaved, and the Valencia struggled desperately to stay on course. But storms along the graveyard of the Pacific do not show mercy. Not then. Not now. Blinded by darkness and hammered by squalls, the ship veered off route. A monstrous wave struck, and the Valencia was hurled toward the rocky shoreline of Vancouver Island. The hull scraped against hidden reefs. The ship shuddered. Wood groaned. Metal screamed. Then came the terrible, inevitable moment. She ran aground. Waves smashed over the deck, tearing railings loose, sweeping passengers into the freezing Black Sea. Panic spread like wildfire. Lifeboats were lowered into the storm, but the raging surf turned them into fragile toys, flipping them into the churning water the moment they touched the surface. Some men leapt into the sea in desperation. Others clung to the ship as it leaned violently into the surf. Women and children huddled near the upper deck, cold, terrified, praying for rescue. But the storm roared too loudly. The cliffs hid the wreck from view, and by the time rescuers arrived, it was too late. Of the 160 passengers and crew on board, only 37 survived. More than 130 lives were swallowed by those merciless waters. The sea remembers them. Even tonight, in this fog, you can feel the weight of their story drifting toward you. Your breath turns into a thin cloud in the cold air. As the fog wraps even tighter around your little boat, the mist thickens until it feels almost physical, like soft wool brushing against your cheeks. You let the silence settle, but behind it, you sense something deeper. A presence, a memory, a silhouette. There is a reason the coastline of British Columbia is known for its ghost stories. Fog here is not just weather, it is a keeper of secrets. Imagine the early morning after the wreck of the Valencia. The sea still storm-darkened. The cliffs looming above the wreck, like ancient guardians, and drifting in the mist. The broken remains of lifeboats, pieces of shattered timbers, clothing torn by the waves. Rescuers spoke of eerie shapes appearing through the fog, of faint cries carried by the wind, of shadows moving on the rocks, only to vanish when approached. And for decades after the disaster, fishermen and passing sailors reported something else, something stranger, a ship, a silhouette, a dark, ghostly outline sailing silently through the mist, a vessel that matched the shape and size of the Valencia, a ship with no lights, a ship with tattered sails that never seemed to tear further. A ship that vanished the moment another vessel tried to approach. The ghost of the Valencia. The fog around you shifts, thickening into swirling columns as if responding to the memory. Your boat continues to drift, its bow breaking through the mist with the softness of a whispered breath. The lantern flickers, dimming enough that for a moment you imagine seeing shadows through the haze. Shadows shaped like a hull, a mast, a broken rail. They drift on the edge of sight, always dissolving, never forming fully, like echoes of tragedy carried by the wind. For nearly 70 years after the disaster, sightings of the phantom ship continued. Sailors whispered of seeing a vessel rocking silently near the cliffs, lit by no lantern and crewed by no living soul. Sometimes it appeared motionless. Sometimes it drifted with the fog, gliding like a memory that refused to settle. One fisherman spoke of seeing figures on the deck, dim shapes, unmoving, as though frozen in time. Another swore he heard voices echoing across the water, faint and mournful, fading before he could trace their source. In 1933, a lifeboat believed to belong to the Valencia was found. Still upright, still seaworthy, nearly 3 decades after the shipwreck. Its interior coated in moss and barnacles, but eerily intact, as though it had been drifting silently through the Pacific all those years. Your boat rocks gently as the mist curls around you, weaving in slow spirals that blur the line between memory and imagination. The ocean beneath you feels heavier now, as though the depth itself carries the weight of all those untold stories. Yet the rhythm of the waves remains soft, cradling you carefully, even as the tale grows darker. There is no fear here, only wonder, only the soft, aching beauty of a story carved into fog. The fog of British Columbia has its own voice, a soft, humming presence that fills the air with a sense of suspended time. It wraps the cliffs, the waves, and even your drifting boat in a shroud that feels almost sacred. You imagine standing on those cliffs on a cold January morning, staring down at the restless Pacific, hearing nothing but the distant boom of the surf. And in that wide silence, you might believe you see the Valencia's shape gliding between the breach of waves and fog, a dark outline, a ghost of memory, a story the sea refuses to forget. The mist sways around you like curtains stirred by a gentle breath. Droplets settle on your hair, your skin, your eyelashes. The lantern's glow dims further, but not out of fear, out of reverence, as if yielding to the fog's quiet authority. Your boat slows in its drift, as though the sea itself is pausing to honor the souls lost to that terrible storm. A soft chill rises from the water, brushing across your arms like a cold feather. The Pacific, even in its calmest state, holds an undercurrent of sorrow, but also resilience, memory, and mystery. Gradually, the fog begins to thin. The mist lifts like a great curtain rising from the stage. You feel a shift, not warm, not comforting, but clean and sharp, like the breath of a new world. The air grows colder, the waves grow heavier, and far ahead, the faint glimmer of icy light begins to appear on the horizon. Your journey is not done. The sea is guiding you onward, away from the tragedy of the Valencia, into waters where cold reigns, where ice forms like glass across the waves, where another story sleeps in frozen twilight. The fog loosens its hold, unraveling into delicate strands. Your breath appears in the air again, pale and fleeting. The lantern brightens slightly, finding new strength as the veil lifts. Ahead, the waters darken further. The air sharpens. The stars grow colder. The path leads toward the Arctic winds, toward drifting ice, toward the long wanderings of a ship that refused to sink. The tail of the Baychimo waits in the frozen distance. The northern breath and the quiet before the frozen tail. The fog that carried the ghost of the Valencia slowly loosens, thinning into pale wisps that drift away across the widening sea, and as it fades, a new air emerges, colder, sharper, clearer, slipping across your skin, with the unmistakable touch of the north. And in that moment you feel the shift, the gentle turning of the ocean's mood, as if the world has changed its breath. The sky above you deepens into a darker, more crystalline shade of night. The stars no longer softened by fog, but burning with a cold, steady brilliance, each one shimmering like a shard of ice suspended in the sky's vast stillness. and the sea beneath you reflects them in trembling lines of silver, broken and reformed by each slow rise of the waves. The wind grows thinner, finer, whispering against your cheeks, with a distant chill that feels both foreign and familiar, like a childhood memory of winter resurfacing in the quietest corner of your mind, and you draw in a long, deep breath, letting the cold air settle into your lungs, letting it steady your heartbeat, letting it clear away any lingering weight from the stories before. There is a profound stillness here, not the warm stillness of gentle nights, but the wide, quiet emptiness of northern waters, an emptiness that feels like a vast room made of frost and silence, where every sound becomes softer, smaller, swallowed by the sheer breadth of open sea and sky. And as your little boat drifts onward, you sense the ocean guiding you with an almost ceremonial calm. You breathe again, slower this time, letting the air fill your chest, imagining the sails of an old ship rising with each inhale, imagining the release of tension with each exhale, the slow unfurling of ropes, the easing of wooden beams, the settling of stories that weigh on the mind, and with every breath you feel the north drawing closer, inviting you into its chilled embrace. The water around you darkens into a deeper shade of midnight, where blue melts into black, and black melts into a shimmering field of starlight reflected on the surface, and the waves move differently now, longer, smoother, as though shaped by the cold hand of distant ice, and each ripple feels like a quiet footstep on a path leading towards something ancient. The air becomes so still that you can hear the faintest sounds, your breath, the whisper of water brushing the hull, the soft pop of freezing foam breaking apart on the wave's edges, and beyond that, nothing. A silence so complete that it feels like a presence in itself, vast and enveloping, holding you gently in its frozen arms. You imagine, just for a moment, what it must feel like to stand on the deck of a ship, drifting through Arctic waters, surrounded by endless fields of ice, listening to the creak of frozen wood and the distant groan of ice floes shifting like restless giants beneath the moon. And even though you are safe in your small, sleep-bound vessel, the image settles over you like a snow-laden blanket. The stillness grows heavier, but in a comforting way, like the world is slowing itself deliberately, easing into a quieter rhythm, preparing your senses for the story that is approaching, a story shaped not by storms or sudden terror, but by persistence, resilience, and the slow, drifting passage of time in a land where winter reigns without end. The north breathes again, brushing against your face with a slightly stronger chill, carrying the scent of ice and open space, carrying the faint echo of something metallic. Old iron, old rails, old hulls, left to wander where no human hand can reach. And as your boat glides onward, you begin to feel another presence stirring in the distance, not frightening, but quietly, stubbornly alive. Somewhere far beyond the horizon, beyond the cold curtain of night, lies the memory of a ship that refused to disappear, a vessel swallowed by ice, and then released again and again, drifting for more than 30 years across the Arctic, as if carried by the whims of wandering winds and frozen tides, a ship that should have sunk, but instead lived on like a ghost, made of iron and endurance. The story of the Baychimo The ship that would not die begins to ripple at the very edge of your thoughts, faint and delicate, like a thin line of frost forming on glass, waiting to spread into clearer shape as you drift deeper into these northern waters. And though you are not yet inside its tail, you can already feel its presence growing, a silent companion journeying toward you across the cold. Your boat sways gently, the lantern flickering with a soft, almost bluish glow now, as if the flame itself is adjusting to the crispness of the air, and you nestle deeper into the rhythm of the waves, letting the slow movement lull you into an even deeper calm, your thoughts drifting like loose snowflakes carried on a soft winter wind. You breathe again, slow, steady, unhurried, letting every inhale fill you with the expansive stillness of the north, letting every exhale release the last remnants of the foggy sorrow left behind by the Valencia. And with each breath, you sense the world widening, the night growing colder, the sea deepening into a quiet that feels infinite. The stars overhead shimmer with a faint, icy tremble, the kind that makes them appear both close enough to touch and impossibly distant. And as you gaze at them, you feel yourself drifting into a deeper layer of relaxation, as though the cold air has carved out a clearer, quieter space within your mind, leaving only softness behind. The water shifts subtly beneath your boat, changing from the long, rhythmic swells of the open Pacific to something calmer, more deliberate, as though great sheets of ice are hiding just beneath the surface, steering the current with their slow, massive movements. And you can almost hear them. Deep, rumbling creaks that vibrate through the water, like the heartbeat of the Arctic itself. As your boat glides forward into this hush, you begin to sense that the silence ahead is not empty, but filled with the weight of countless frozen nights. Nights where the sea and sky look identical, where the horizon blurs into a single sheet of cold blue darkness, where time stretches thin and slow, creating space for stories that drift without direction for decades. And somewhere within that frozen stillness, somewhere beyond this widening quiet, lies the Baychimo, waiting in the lonely channels of the Arctic night, not anchored, not guided, drifting with the patience of something not entirely alive yet refusing to die, its hull creaking against the breath of ice, its journey unclaimed by any port. The north exhales once more, gentle and cold, brushing your skin like a whisper of snow. And as you breathe in that chilled air, the world around you settles into a deeper, dreamier stillness, preparing you for the frozen legend waiting ahead, the tale of a ship that wandered the Arctic for more than 30 years, lost, yet never gone, a ghost not of death, but of endurance. The Baychimo's shadow stretches across the cold horizon now, faint but unmistakable, waiting for you beyond the edges of this quiet northern breath. The SS Baychimo, the wanderer of the Arctic night. The northern air settles around you like a thin sheet of frost, quiet and unmoving, and as your small boat glides deeper into the cold waters, the world feels vast and pale, as though the night itself has frozen into a hushed stillness, carrying the silence of centuries across an endless stretch of Arctic sea. The last threads of fog from the Pacific drift away behind you, replaced by a sharper emptiness, a crystalline clarity that reveals the stars with razor brilliance, stars that shimmer like ice suspended in the heavens, trembling above a horizon where the boundary between water and sky dissolves into a seamless, frozen twilight. The sea beneath you grows heavier, darker, slower, moving with the monumental patience of ice flows drifting just beneath the surface. And in this vast, untouched quiet, you feel the presence of something old, something stubborn, something that has lingered here far longer than any ship was meant to survive. This is where the Baychimo waits, or wanders, never anchored, never surrendered. A ghost not of spirits, but of endurance, carved into steel and frost. The SS Baychimo began her strange fate in the winter of 1931 when she became trapped in thick Arctic ice off the coast of Alaska, the early freeze sealing her hull, like iron hands closing around her body. And the crew, knowing the dangers of Arctic winters, built a small camp on the ice nearby, expecting the thaw to release her when spring returned. But the ice, unpredictable and powerful, shifted during a fierce storm, grinding and groaning beneath the ship. And when the blizzard finally passed, the Baychimo was gone, torn from the frozen grip and carried away by drifting ice fields, leaving the crew staring across blank, white plain where only emptiness remained. For a moment, no one knew whether she had sunk beneath the crushing sheets of ice or slipped silently into the drifting channels, vanishing between the frozen ridges like a creature fleeing into a maze of winter. Days later, she reappeared, unexpectedly, eerily, floating miles away, battered but afloat, as though nothing more than an invisible hand had picked her up and set her down elsewhere in the Arctic wasteland. The crew determined the ship was too dangerous to salvage, the ice threatening to trap them again, so they abandoned her, believing nature would claim her within days or weeks, as it had claimed countless ships before. But the Baychimo did not sink. She refused to die. Your boat drifts onward, the lantern flickering with a bluish tint as the cold deepens, and you can almost imagine seeing the Baychimo's silhouette emerging from the Arctic mist, a dark shape with ice hanging from its rails like frozen tears, its hull groaning under the pressure of decades, yet still moving, still drifting, still alive in its own ghostly way. The Arctic winds carried Baychimo through channels and ice fields for more than 30 years, allowing her to reappear in the most unexpected places, spotted by whalers, by Inuit hunters, by passing explorers who could scarcely believe their eyes when they saw the battered vessel gliding silently across the ice-rimmed sea like a survivor, too stubborn to surrender. Sometimes she drifted alone in clear water, her deck empty, her masts sagging like tired bones, the echo of her past life clinging to her like frost. Sometimes she was seen trapped in ice again, frozen in place like a relic of another time, her hull jutting out from the white plains, like the skeleton of some forgotten giant. Sometimes she disappeared for years at a time, slipping into the labyrinth of Arctic passageways, only to return, unchanged and unclaimed, as if emerging from a long, icy sleep. Travelers often reported the same haunting image, a ship with no crew, no footprints on her deck, no lights, no sound, only a silent hull, drifting beneath a sky thick with swirling snow, her presence both eerie and majestic, a reminder that the Arctic chooses its own survivors, and the Baychimo was one of them. Your breath softens as you picture her gliding across a frozen sea under the pale glow of the northern lights, the shimmering aurora casting green and violet veils over her empty deck, making her appear not like a ship at all, but like a moving shadow stitched from ice and memory. Year after year she wandered, sometimes seen, sometimes lost, always drifting. For more than 3 decades, the Arctic kept her, as though the sea itself had adopted the ship, granting her a strange, spectral existence, neither alive nor gone, neither afloat nor forgotten, a story suspended in icy twilight. The last confirmed sighting of Baychimo was in 1969, frozen in pack ice, still upright, still defiant, still refusing to sink into the depths, and after that she faded into the vastness of the Arctic night, slipping beneath the horizon like a dream dissolving at dawn, never to be found again, though some say she may still drift beneath the ice, moving with the slow pulse of the northern tides. Your boat tilts slightly as a colder gust of wind brushes across the water, a sign that the Arctic is beginning to release its hold on your path, guiding you toward warmer currents, steering you gently away from the world of drifting ice and relentless winter. The stars soften again, losing their icy glow, and a different scent enters the air. Salt touched with heat, touched with distant rain, touched with something tropical that whispers of lands far from the frozen north, far from the silent endurance of the Baychimo's wandering fate. The Arctic night stretches behind you now, fading into a pale streak across the horizon, and your boat glides into gentler darkness, leaving the wandering ghost of steel and ice behind, carrying with it the quiet weight of a story that survived where no life could. Ahead, the waters begin to warm, the air thickens slightly, and a faint, distant haze, warmer, denser, touched with the breath of the tropics, starts to form on the horizon, inviting you downward from the frozen crown of the world toward a different kind of mystery altogether. You are drifting south now, away from the cold breath of the Arctic, toward the humid shadows of the Malacca Strait, where another legend waits in the warm, shifting fog, a story not of endurance, but of fear, frozen in the faces of those who met their end aboard a ship shrouded in myth. The Baychimo's icy ghost remains behind you, and ahead, the first whispers of the Ourang Medan begin to rise with the warmer wind. The turning wind, from Arctic frost to southern heat. The last trace of Arctic breath lingers behind you like a fading whisper, thin and crystalline, dissolving slowly into the vastness of the northern sky as your small boat drifts southward, and with each gentle mile the cold begins to loosen its hold, slipping from your skin the way frost melts under the first touch of morning light. The air around you shifts gradually, almost imperceptibly at first, the sharp sting of icy wind softening into something rounder, warmer, carrying a faint new scent, salt touched by distant rain, touched by the breath of jungles hidden far beyond the horizon, touched by currents that have traveled across thousands of miles of tropical sea. You feel the change as a delicate warmth settling onto your cheeks, a quiet uncoiling of the cold that had wrapped around your shoulders like a pale cloak, and with each breath the air grows a degree gentler, smoother, as though the world is waking from a long, frozen dream. and stretching slowly into the glow of another climate. The sea beneath you responds to this change. Its dark, heavy swells lightening into softer waves, the rigid strength of Arctic water loosening into the more fluid motion of temperate seas, each crest rising with a relaxed rhythm, each trough folding gently as though the ocean itself is exhaling after holding its breath for too long. Your boat responds as well, rocking in broader, easier arcs, no longer pushed by the tense undercurrents of ice, but carried by warm tides that move with the lazy grace of distant summer winds, and you sense that the world around you is transitioning, layer by layer, into a gentler version of itself. The sky opens further as the stars begin to soften, no longer sharp, blue-white sparks, but warmer glimmers, drifting above you like embers scattered across a velvet tapestry, and the darkness overhead shifts into a deeper, more comforting shade, tinted with the faintest hint of tropical humidity rising from faraway waters. The lantern at your side glows differently now, its flame steadier, brighter, unhindered by the thin, freezing gusts of the Arctic, and the golden light stretches across the waves in long, shimmering streaks that ripple softly with each movement of your boat, glowing like molten sunlight beneath the dark surface. You take a long breath, feeling how easily the air flows through you now, warm enough to sink into your chest like a soft blanket, warm enough to loosen every muscle that had tightened under the cold northern winds, and with each exhale, the heaviness of the Arctic melts further behind you. The ocean around you grows quieter, not with emptiness, but with a different kind of peace, a warm hush that carries hints of distant shores, of humid nights, of forests thick with unseen life, and though you are still far from land, you can sense the presence of warmer climates on the wind, carried in invisible waves of heat rising from far away. The shift is subtle but constant, a slow migration from one world into another, and you drift in that liminal space, neither Arctic nor tropical, floating on a wide ribbon of temperate sea where the two climates blend like watercolors, bleeding together on wet paper, seamless, beautiful, inevitable. Somewhere far behind you, the Baychimo drifts silently through her icy labyrinth, her ghostly journey continuing where no warm wind can reach, and though the memory of her steel silhouette lingers faintly in your thoughts, it no longer clings with the weight of northern stillness. Instead, fading gently into the background like a cold chapter closing softly. Ahead, the first hints of tropical life begin to rise on the wind, fragile at first, almost like illusions. A faint sweetness that lingers on your tongue, a distant echo of warm rain hitting wide leaves, a soft rustling sound that could almost be imagined. Palm fronds brushing together in a faraway breeze. The water beneath you changes color, dark blues shifting into deeper indigos, then into rich midnight tones, tinged with warm undertones, as if the sea itself is absorbing the rising heat and reflecting its transformation back to you in waves of soft, glowing pigment. Your boat drifts as though carried by an invisible hand, guiding it through the subtle gateway between climates, and the rhythm of the waves changes entirely, becoming slower, broader, rolling like the breath of a massive, relaxed creature, sleeping beneath the surface. The air grows dense enough that your skin tingles, no longer from cold, but from the warm moisture settling onto it, and each breath feels fuller, heavier, in a comforting way, inviting your lungs to relax deeper, inviting your body to settle into a kind of tropical calm that comes only from warm sea air moving through the night. You hear it next. Not a sound from the Arctic, but from the south. A hum, low and distant, vibrating through the warm air like the quiet song of unseen insects waking somewhere beyond the horizon, and though it is faint, it carries with it the unmistakable promise of tropical nights, nights thick with mist and mystery. The ocean itself changes its voice, no longer groaning with the deep, creaking tones of frozen water, but whispering with a softer, more fluid cadence, the sound of waves brushing against long, sandy shores, far, far away, the sound of seas unbroken by ice, warm enough to cradle coral reefs and drifting tides of underwater life. Your lantern flickers again, but this time the flame grows taller, its glow deepening to a warm amber that melts into the moist darkness, illuminating the soft vapor rising lazily from the sea, like breath from sleeping giants, hidden just beneath the surface. You inhale again, deeper than before, letting the humid air roll into your lungs like slow-moving velvet, letting it ground you in the warmth that spreads through your chest, soothing, calming, expanding into every corner of your body until you feel suspended in a cocoon of gentle heat. The transition is nearly complete now, the Arctic left behind, the tropics ahead, and yet you remain in this drifting corridor of in-between, this soft passage carved by the sea's patient hands, a bridge from frozen silence to humid twilight. And in this space you can feel the next story rising like a warm vapor from the depths. A story shaped not by endurance, like the Baychimo, but by fear, by mystery, by the chilling stillness of a crew found dead with terror carved into their final expressions, a legend whispered across Southeast Asian waters, carried by sailors who swear they heard a final, desperate message sent from a ship swallowed by the Malacca Strait. The warm wind brushes your cheek, carrying a faint scent of spice and distant rain, and you know, without needing to see it, that the shadows of the Ourang Medan are beginning to gather in the heavy southern air. The Ourang Medan, the signal of fate. The warm southern wind grows heavier as you drift deeper into the dark waters leading toward the Malacca Strait, and the air carries a thick, velvety humidity that clings softly to your skin, wrapping your body in warmth, while your mind slips into a slower rhythm shaped by the rolling movement of the tropical sea. And with each passing breath, you sense that something ancient, something unsettling yet strangely mesmerizing is beginning to rise from these depths. The water beneath your little boat takes on a new voice, deeper and more fluid, the gentle hiss of warm waves brushing against the hull like whispered secrets spoken in the language of tides, and the lantern beside you glows brighter in the moist air, its reflection rippling across the surface in golden trails that stretch and scatter before dissolving into the dark. Far above, the sky has changed again, the sharp Arctic stars replaced by a hazy canopy, where clouds move like slow, shadowy creatures drifting through the night, and even the moon appears softened, its glow blurred by the damp, warm atmosphere, giving the entire horizon a dreamlike haze that deepens every color into velvet shadows. As you breathe in the heavy air, you sense the presence of a story approaching, not cold like the Baychimo, not mournful like the Valencia, but wrapped in a strange, myth-like aura, a tale whispered for decades without certainty, without proof, carried by sailors who swore they heard a final signal, a signal that drifted across the airwaves like a dying breath from a ship, swallowed by fear. The legend begins with a message, a simple signal carried through static in 1947. A voice, trembling, fragmented, almost swallowed by interference. A voice that managed to release 4 words into the world before everything fell silent. All officers dead. Your breath pauses as the warm wind brushes across your skin, as though the air itself remembers those words, carrying the echo of that final, desperate transmission from the Dutch freighter Ourang Medan, a ship supposedly drifting somewhere within these very waters, hidden behind humid fog and currents, swallowed by the labyrinth of the Malacca Strait. Moments after the first message came a second, more frantic, more broken. A whisper clawing its way through static so loud it felt almost alive. All crew dead. I die. Then silence. The kind of silence that feels absolute, the kind that sinks into the bones of the sea. Your boat sways gently as the story unfurls in your mind, the soft, tropical waves shifting beneath you, as though they are carrying the memory forward, pulling you through a warm corridor of night to where the legend took shape. A legend born not just of tragedy, but of inexplicable terror carved into the faces of men who died without warning. According to those who chronicled the tale, the rescue ship that first reached the Ourang Medan found her drifting peacefully in calm water, her hull unbroken, her masts upright, her decks bathed in an eerie stillness beneath a sun that had burned away the morning fog. And yet, the moment the boarding party stepped onto the deck, the air turned heavy, suffocating, silent in a way that felt unnatural. Then they saw the bodies. Sailors lay sprawled across the deck, limbs twisted, faces frozen in expressions of absolute fear, eyes wide open, mouths parted as though their final breath had been stolen mid-scream. Not a single sign of struggle or injury, not a trace of blood, not even a wound to explain their deaths. Only a tableau of terror so vivid it seemed to stain the air around them. Inside the ship, officers were found the same way, slumped in hallways and leaning against machinery, their skin pale, their fingers curled in spasms of fear, their eyes staring at something long vanished. And the dog on board was found stiff, teeth bared, frozen in a snarl at something no longer present. The boarding crew felt a strange pressure in the air, a heaviness that made the ship feel stifling, unnatural, as if the heat inside the vessel carried a hidden sickness, a poison drifting through the closed spaces, and though they searched quickly, their instincts told them not to linger. The captain of the rescue crew ordered the ship to be towed back to port, hoping to uncover the mystery behind the mass death. But before the lines were fully secured, smoke began rising from the hold, a thin, dark ribbon at first, then a sudden, violent plume, as though something deep within the hull had reached its boiling point. The rescuers cut the tow lines and leapt into their boat, rowing away as fast as they could, while the smoke thickened and belched from every crack of the ship's body. And moments later, the Ourang Medan erupted in a bursting flame that split the hull apart, sending fire into the sky. The explosion so fierce that wooden planks were flung into the water like burning shards of night. When the smoke cleared and the fire died, nothing remained. No wreckage, no survivors, no trace of the ship at all. The sea closed over the spot where the Ourang Medan had been, erasing the evidence as though swallowing the story whole, leaving behind only the memory of the signal, the bodies frozen in terror, and the explosion that devoured the final proof. Your boat drifts through the darkness, the warm breeze brushing across your face, carrying the steam-like breath of humid tropical winds, and the sea around you feels deeper now, more alive, as though the ocean itself remembers the legend and murmurs it quietly beneath its waves. A story that has become more myth than fact, because no official record of the ship ever existed. No registration, no ownership, no logs. Nothing that confirmed the Ourang Medan ever sailed. And yet the story persists, carried by the warm winds and whispered across generations, as if the ocean refuses to let it die, as if the fear etched onto those faces marked the sea itself. You inhale slowly, gently, letting the warm, thick air settle into your lungs, bringing with it the strange blend of dread and fascination that surrounds this tale. But the story holds no sharp edges here, no terror strong enough to disturb your sleep. Like calm, only the soft swirl of curiosity drifting through the night like warm mist. The waves at your boat's sides begin to change again, becoming smoother, quieter, warmer still, as though the sea is guiding you away from the heavy myth of the Ourang Medan toward gentler currents, toward a quieter mystery waiting under calm Pacific skies. The tropical air softens into a peaceful hum. The horizon widens, and the first hints of a calmer, brighter sea begin to glimmer through the darkness, leading you toward another drifting tale, one not shaped by terror but by perplexing emptiness, a story carried by hushed waves and unanswered questions. The mystery of the Joyita waits in those tranquil waters, where the sea looks peaceful but hides its own quiet strangeness beneath the rolling sunlit tide. The gentle waves entering the Pacific calm. The warm breath of the Malacca winds softens further as your little boat drifts onward, leaving behind the heavy shadow of the Ourang Medan. And as the tropical night stretches wide around you, the air grows smoother, clearer, touched by a calmness that feels like the sea itself is exhaling after holding a story too dark for too long. The water beneath you begins to change color, the deep, shadowed tones of the strait dissolving gradually into broader washes of soft blue, even under the night sky, shifting with gentle strokes, as though the ocean is repainting itself with every ripple, every small breath of movement, every tender pulse rising from its depths. The waves expand into wider arcs, no longer compressed and warm with the secretive weight of the narrow strait, but spreading with the grand, open rhythm of the Pacific, each swell stretching like a slow heartbeat across a vast and peaceful body. And your boat rides these swells, with an ease that sinks into your muscles, calming every last tension you may hold. The air carries a lighter scent now, a blend of salt and faint blooming currents that drift from faraway islands, currents that carry hints of flowers, sun-warmed shores, and soft sand untouched by human hands. And the breeze plays with your hair like gentle fingertips, smoothing the atmosphere into something tranquil, wide, and safe. Far above, the sky clears again, the clouds thinning into long, wispy trails that drift like silk across a deep velvet canvas, letting the stars shine through in warm clusters, no longer icy or sharp, but glowing with a gentle, restful warmth that mirrors the ocean's growing serenity. The lantern beside you sways with the gentler rhythm, its flame dancing in slow, steady waves, casting a soft, molten glow across the widening sea, turning each ripple into a slender ribbon of gold, like pathways stretching into the quiet infinity of the Pacific night. The horizon broadens too, expanding into a sweeping line where sky and sea meet so seamlessly that you almost cannot tell where one ends and the other begins. The boundary dissolved into a soft merging of color and stillness, a horizon that invites you not into fear or mystery, but into a vast comfort that feels almost like being held. You breathe deeply, letting the calmer air fill your lungs and settle in your chest like warm water poured into a cool vessel, soothing every thought, smoothing every rough edge inside your mind, drawing you into the sleepy sway of the Pacific's long, gentle breath. The waves continue to soften, spreading wider, rising slower, folding like silk sheets, being laid down across the surface of the sea, and your boat follows them quietly, drifting with a grace that feels guided, as though the ocean itself is intent on carrying you toward a softer story now, a quieter mystery shaped not by terror or violence, but by a silence that leaves more questions than answers. This part of the Pacific is known for its deceptive calm, its glassy waters and golden horizons, its warm winds and bright reefs, but beneath that serenity lie currents that have carried many vessels, some toward safe shores, and others into strange, unexplainable fates that linger like whispers in the old sailor roots. As you drift further into this gentler space, the memory of the Ourang Medan loosens from your thoughts, melting into the humid night behind you like fog melting under early morning sun, and your mind begins to open once more, clearing room for a story altogether different, a story where the sea's calmness becomes its most unsettling trait. You feel this shift in the water first, the waves spreading even wider, almost impossibly smooth, moving like satin draped over a sleeping giant, and the sound changes to the soft hiss of the Ourang Medan's waters, fading into a serene hush, the kind of hush that belongs only to vast, open ocean under a peaceful sky. The wind slows to a tender whisper, not absent, but gentle enough to feel like a warm hand laid quietly across your shoulders, its touch comforting, balancing, steadying your breath into an even slower rhythm that matches the Pacific's long, rhythmic rise and fall. The lantern's glow reflects across the nearly mirror-like surface of the sea, stretching into a long, shimmering bow that bends and sways with every small ripple, and your eyes follow its motion, feeling your thoughts stretch with it, drifting gently outward into the soft emptiness where peace meets curiosity. It is in this quiet that you sense the next story drawing near, not with dread or darkness, but with the soft pull of an unanswered question, a gentle tug of mystery wrapped inside the warm tide of the Pacific, a faint echo carried across calm water, a ship found drifting in perfect sunlight, a radio still humming with life, lights glowing softly on deck, supplies untouched, yet not a single soul on board. The Joyita, the ship that seemed to wait patiently for someone who would never return. Your boat shifts slightly, as if aligning itself with the direction of the tail, the currents pulling you toward a space where waves remain deceptively calm. But beneath that calm lies the quiet confusion of disappearance without struggle, silence without cause, emptiness without explanation. You breathe again slowly, letting the warm air fill your chest, letting the calmness of the Pacific sink into your bones, letting your mind settle into the softness of the moment. And as your eyelids grow slightly heavier, you feel the story of the Joyita gathering around you like a warm, gentle tide rising at your feet. The Pacific's wide breath hums around your little boat, carrying the whisper of a ship that vanished without a sign of distress, only to reappear weeks later as a sunlit ghost, floating quietly on a calm sea as if abandoned in mid-motion, left untouched by storm or chaos, left in a condition too strange to ignore. The horizon stretches out before you, vast and peaceful, inviting you deeper into the calm where the Joyita's story waits, not harsh, not violent, just softly perplexing, a puzzle carried by waves warm enough to lull even the sharpest fears into dreams. Your boat drifts into that warmth, the Pacific unfolding before you like a great, sunlit cradle, and you sense that you are only moments away from stepping into the silent mystery of the Joyita. The Joyita, the lighted ship with no one aboard. The gentle breath of the Pacific surrounds you now, warm and smooth, carrying your drifting boat through a vast openness where the sea glows softly beneath the lantern's reflection, and as the waves stretch into wide, unbroken swells, the calmness becomes deeper, more enveloping, as though the ocean itself is preparing to cradle the final great mystery resting in its warm embrace. The air settles into a tranquil hush, the breeze brushing lightly across your skin like the faintest touch of drifting silk, and somewhere far ahead, hidden behind the serene glow of moonlit water, lies a story shaped not by violence or storms or fear, but by quiet emptiness, by a silence so complete that it feels almost sacred, the story of a ship found whole, alive with light and sound, yet abandoned by every living soul aboard. It is 1955, and the Pacific holds this story gently, as though afraid to disturb it. The tale of the Joyita, a small merchant vessel that disappeared while journeying between the islands of Samoa and Tokelau, a route known for calm seas and predictable weather, a place where the ocean's breath is almost always warm, steady, and forgiving. The Joyita departed Apia on a routine voyage, carrying cargo, medical supplies, food, and small goods, and 25 people, crew members, passengers, traders, and a doctor traveling to perform surgery on a remote island, all of them stepping aboard in good spirits, unaware that the sea was preparing to weave them into one of its strangest mysteries. For days after her departure, no distress calls were heard, no warnings, no signals, nothing but the quiet certainty that the Joyita should soon arrive at her destination, gliding across gentle waters beneath wide blue skies. But she never arrived. No radio crackled, no message was sent, no debris washed ashore. The Pacific held its silence. Weeks passed, 5 long weeks in which the families of the passengers waited for news, and the island communities strained their ears for any word, their eyes scanning the horizon at sunrise and sunset for the faint outline of a ship returning home. Then suddenly, she was found, drifting, listing heavily to one side, but afloat. She appeared like a dream rising over the horizon, a vessel leaning strangely, worn by sun and salt, but unmistakably alive, as though she had simply wandered away and forgotten to return. The crew who discovered her approached cautiously, senses alert, expecting signs of damage or storm. But as they neared, a strange feeling settled over them, a silence deeper than the wide ocean surrounding her. A silence that seemed to pulse through the humid Pacific air. The Joyita was not broken, she was not burned, she was not attacked. She simply drifted alone, moving gently with the tide. When they boarded her, the first thing they noticed was the lights. Still running, still glowing with power, drawn from a generator that hummed softly beneath the deck. The radio equipment, too, buzzed with life, its circuits functioning, ready to broadcast or receive signals that had never been sent, or perhaps had been swallowed by some unseen force before reaching the airwaves. Inside the cabin, the air smelled of salt, warm wood, and faint oil fumes, but not decay, not death, not panic, no sign that the passengers had left in fear or haste. The cargo was mostly intact. Crates stacked neatly, supplies untouched, each box waiting patiently for hands that would never return to claim them. There were even teacups on a counter, a small pot set beside them, as if someone had intended to make a warm drink, as if the ship had been paused rather than abandoned. But the lifeboats were gone. All of them. Lowered into the water at some unknown time for some unknown reason, and the people, all 25 of them, were nowhere to be found. No bodies in the water, no signs of a struggle, no floating debris, nothing but the soft hum of the generator and the quiet lapping of the Pacific against the hull. Your boat sways gently as you imagine stepping aboard the Joyita yourself, the deck creaking softly beneath your feet, the humid breeze drifting through the empty vessel, carrying with it the faint scent of old wood warmed by the tropical sun, and everywhere you walk, the silence grows thicker, softer, as though the ship has been waiting for company for far too long. You picture wandering through her corridors, rooms where bedding remains rumpled as if slept in a doctor's bag, left open with instruments still arranged neatly. A notebook resting on a table open to a half-finished line of writing, everything frozen in a moment that ended abruptly without explanation. There are no claw marks of panic, no overturned chairs, no smashed instruments, no message scratched into the wall, only the gentle, ongoing hum of machines that should have had no reason to keep running for 5 weeks, yet did, as though the ship refused to surrender its spark, even when all human life had slipped away. Some investigators believe the ship had begun taking on water slowly from a leak in the hull, though not enough to sink her, only enough to tilt her at an angle that might have made the crew fear she was doomed to roll, and perhaps they abandoned her out of caution, lowering lifeboats into calm waters that later turned against them. Others suspected mutiny or piracy, but no trace supported those theories, not a single piece of evidence out of place. There were even whispers of something stranger, hallucinations caused by fumes, a sudden illness, a panic triggered by something unseen, a decision made in the haze of fear or confusion, a collective choice to leave a ship that was, in truth, perfectly capable of surviving. But the Pacific kept its secrets, and the Joyita drifted with quiet dignity, carrying a story made not of violence, but of vanishing. A mystery, almost gentle in its nature. A puzzle so silent that it feels like an echo of breath, rather than an echo of tragedy. Your boat glides through the dark water as the lantern's glow grows softer, the waves brushing against your hull with a warm, hushed rhythm that seems to mirror the calm emptiness of the Joyita. An emptiness not frightening, but oddly peaceful, like a house, abandoned with its doors open to the soft wind. You breathe slowly, feeling the quiet of the Pacific settle even deeper into your body, the calmness spreading across your mind like warm water, smoothing the surface of a once troubled sea. And you sense that the stories you have journeyed through, the ghostly solitude of the Mary Celeste, the sorrowful storm of the Valencia, the frozen endurance of the Baychimo, the chilling myth of the Ourang Medan, and now the soft enigma of the Joyita, all begin to swirl around you like currents meeting in the open ocean. The Pacific breathes with you, warm and steady, cradling your little boat in its wide, tranquil arms. And as you drift toward the final chapter of your journey, you feel the sea gathering all these tales together, holding them close, preparing to blend them into one seamless tide of mystery and sleep. Ahead, the horizon glows faintly, with a soft promise of deeper rest, deeper calm, the final movement of your voyage waiting to unfold, like a lullaby carried on the waves. The ocean's lullaby. The Pacific continues its long, gentle breath around your drifting boat, warm waves rising and falling in slow, sleepy rhythms that touch the hull with soft murmurs. And as the lantern's glow sways in a relaxed arc beside you, the night stretches wide and open, like a great, dark blanket being drawn carefully across the sky, inviting you into its deepest peace. The stories you have traveled through drift around you like distant constellations, not sharp or defined now, but softened into glimmers of memory, each tale blending into the next, merging into a single current that carries you toward stillness, toward the quiet heart of the ocean, where all mysteries finally settle into silence. You feel the lingering echo of the Mary Celeste, her empty decks and untouched meals now dissolving into the vastness of the Atlantic, the memory no longer eerie but gentle, like a candle flame flickering behind a closed door, leaving only a soft glow behind, As it fades, you sense the shadow of the Valencia too, her storm-torn hull swallowed by fog and time, the cries of her passengers now muted into a distant murmur carried by the winds of British Columbia. Nothing sharp, nothing haunting, only the vague impression of a lonely silhouette drifting into the past, softened by years and sea spray. The cold breath of the Arctic lingers next, carrying the stubborn presence of the Baychimo, the ship that refused to sink, her wandering shape now just a faint chill on your skin, no longer icy but cool like the final sip of winter air before spring begins. Her memory drifting quietly beneath the stars, like an old giant settling into sleep. Then, from the humid south, the whisper of the Ourang Medan passes through your thoughts. The signal, all crew dead, I die, fading until it becomes nothing more than a trembling ripple on the surface of the warm sea. The terror melted away, leaving only curiosity, a soft, drifting question without weight, without fear. And finally, the Joyita's glow. The ship of humming lights and untouched cargo floats gently through your mind like a lantern on calm water, the emptiness of her decks settling into your thoughts with a strangely comforting hush, a reminder that some mysteries were made not to be solved, but to be listened to, quietly, slowly, with the soft curiosity of a dream. Now these 5 ships drift around you like slow-moving stars, orbiting the peaceful space of your mind, each one shedding its final traces until all that remains is a gentle echo, a whisper of wonder without sharpness, a memory softened into something soothing, something warm, something ready to dissolve entirely into the night. Your boat continues across the wide Pacific, the ocean beneath you cradling you in its long, rhythmic sway, each movement carrying you deeper into rest, deeper into softness, deeper into the quiet world where thoughts loosen and drift like leaves floating away on a calm tide. The sky above deepens into a darker, more velvety shade, sprinkled with constellations that pulse in slow, sleepy patterns, and the moon dips lower toward the horizon, its reflection shimmering across the waves in long silver strokes that glow like a pathway leading you to the edge of consciousness, to the threshold between waking and sleep. The breeze becomes almost imperceptible now, only a warm kiss brushing gently against your cheek, steady and soft, a breath of night that seems to whisper through your hair, a voice older than any story, saying nothing in words, yet telling you everything you need to hear. The ocean around you is at its calmest, its surface smooth and wide, like a gigantic mirror reflecting the stillness of the sky. And every wave that rises beneath your boat feels slower, gentler, as though even the sea is settling into slumber, folding itself into the deep warmth of night. You breathe in, and your lungs fill with the warm scent of the Pacific, a mixture of salt and calm and distant blossoms carried from unseen islands. And as you exhale, your body sinks deeper into the soft cradle of the boat, deeper into the movement of the waves, deeper into the quiet rhythm that pulls you toward rest. Your eyelids grow heavier, your thoughts soften at the edges, your mind drifting in long, slow arcs that mirror the rolling swells beneath you, and the ocean feels as though it is holding you safely, gently, rocking you with a tenderness only nature can offer. a lullaby shaped by centuries of tides and moonlit nights. The stories, once vivid and full of movement, now blur into one flowing tapestry like threads woven into a single piece of silk, smooth and warm, stretching out across your thoughts in patterns that rise and fall, with the same rhythm as your breathing, the same rhythm as the sea. No answers are needed here, no conclusions, no final lines drawn. The mysteries remain where they belong, drifting in the deep quiet of the ocean, neither solved nor sharpened, simply allowed to rest, to float gently away like small boats, released into the dark, gradually fading into the horizon, until they become one with the night. You feel the sea's calmness merging with your own, your heartbeat slowing to match its long, steady rhythm, your thoughts stretching out like soft waves, dissolving into a warm shore, each one gentler than the last, each one disappearing before it fully forms. The lantern beside you dims, its glow softening into a small, sleepy pulse of golden light that flickers in harmony with your deepening breaths. And the ocean holds your little boat steady, as though it knows this is where your journey ends, where the stories become dreams and the night becomes rest. The sea has quieted, and so has your mind. The words drift through you like a floating whisper, soothing, warm, like a hand brushing lightly across your forehead, smoothing away the last remnants of wakefulness, and the waves slow further, their rise and fall dissolving into the soft static of sleep. You breathe once more, slow, deep, easy. The ocean breathes with you, its heartbeat fading into yours, its lullaby sinking into the soft places of your mind, guiding you gently toward the edge of dreams, where the sea, the sky, and your thoughts become a single quiet horizon. And then, like a final wave folding into the shore, the night settles completely, the world falling into perfect stillness, and your journey ends in a calm so deep it feels like the ocean itself has gone to sleep beside you.